Hi, my name is Philippe Blais. I'm from Quebec City. And in this video, I'm gonna walk you through 30 seconds of music. It's a Disney-style orchestral piece that I call Carolina. It actually follows Ryan Leach and Christopher Sue's initiative, who proposed to review 30 seconds of music submitted by the followers. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to finish writing that piece before submissions were closed. So I thought, why not make a walkthrough video and hopefully get feedback from you. So let's dive in. Alright, so as you've heard, there is two sections in this piece. There is this first section with the piano, let's call this the A section, and then there is the B section where there is all the full orchestra. Let's have a look at the strings first. So what is going on? In the A section, the strings really have a support role. So it's really simple, it's suspended chords, only with the low strings. Whereas in the B section, the strings are much louder. They really are the core of this section. Violins 1 and 2 are playing in unison. They play the melody. Whereas the violas and the cello really have, their role is really to keep the rhythm and keep this motion with all these alternating notes. In terms of harmony, what's going on is really simple. So we're swimming between 1, 4, and 5. So we are in E major. So it's E major, A major, and B. But I think something interesting is the crescendo part. So there is a little more action in terms of harmony, but also in terms of motion. So what I'm using to create this crescendo is not only going louder in terms of dynamic, but also I'm adding new instruments. So violin 2 and violin 1 are stepping in, but also there is this upward motion in the higher violins, whereas there is a downward motion in the cellos and the contrabasses. So if we look at what's going on in harmony, what's going downward is we're going on C sharp, B, A, F sharp, and then D natural and C natural, which I think really adds a beautiful color in the harmony. So what's going on is and then D natural, C, and then B. So this downward motion is at the opposite of what the higher strings are doing, and I think this really contributes to this sense of tension, and we are expecting something to happen in the B section. So let's have a listen to this actually. With the main string library that I'm using, it's Cinematic Studio Strings. I really like it. And we'll see what I have done with other libraries, but first let's have a listen only to CSS alone. All right, I really like how CSS sounds, but I think it lacks two things. First, I think it lacks a bit of body, a bit of depth, and this is why I'm using also BBC SO strings. I think these sound a bit more fuller. I think they sound a little bit bigger, less upfront. less closer. And I think together with CSS, they sound really beautiful. So let's have a listen to CSS, and we'll bring in BBC. Yeah, I think this works really well together. And then the other thing I think CSS lacks is it really sounds dark. And I wanted to add a little bit of brightness, and this is why I added Nucleus strings. So actually, I used the ensemble patch of Nucleus to create like the first draft of this piece, and I really liked how bright it sounded. So I layered it with CSS, and I think they work really well together. So let's have a listen to CSS. Yeah, I think in the higher strings we can really hear Nucleus well. I think it's really beautiful, and as you can see, it's not the main library. It's like at -11 dB, so it's quiet, but still we can hear the difference, and I really like it. All right, let's jump to the Woodwinds. I was short in time, so I wanted something safe and effective, so I only doubled with what the strings are doing. So flutes, oboe are doubling the violins, the clarinets are doubling the violas, and the bassoons are doubling the cellos, and that's about it. So let's have a listen to only the Woodwinds. So really simple. What I'm using are Berlin woodwinds. And let's have a listen actually to the clarinets with the violas, just to show up like how together they sound and how the woodwinds add just a little bit of color to the strings. So only the violas. Yeah, so it's really subtle, but I think it works well. All right, now let's listen to the brass. The brass is a little more interesting. So the French horn are doing a counter melody. So as you can hear, see there is a little more actions in the horn when there is less in the violins. I still wanted the listener to feel that the main melody is played by the violins and the woodwinds, but I think this here and there adds a little more action when there is less. So let's have a listen to the horns. And once again here I'm using Cinematic Studio Brass, and I layer this with BBC SO to add a little more body. Yeah, so it's really subtle once again. And then for the trombones, bass trombones, and the tuba, this is actually inspired by John Williams' Harry's Wondrous World. So I think on bar 9, you hear like this, the main theme played by, I think, the violins and the woodwinds. And the trombones and the tuba are actually only playing chords. But I think it's really effective because it's just like fill the space, add a bit, just a little bit of weight without being like really loud, and I really liked it. So this here is inspired by this. So let's have a listen to the trombones, and once again I'm using Cinematic Studio trombones layered with BBC trombones. And then last but not least, the percussion. So the obvious thing here is the piano. I'm using the Hanson piano from Piano Book, so it's a free library. I think it works really well with this kind of piece. And as you can see here, there's nothing going on in the left hand. The reason for this is I wanted the listener to feel like it's only a melody played by the piano, and it's not actually a pianist playing. So it's really at the opposite of the piano concerto, where you really hear the signature and the style of the pianist that is playing. I didn't want this in this piece, so it can be a bit boring for a pianist when you see this score, but this really was the intention behind this. So yeah, it's the melody, really simple. And one thing I really like is at the end, when the piece ends on the A major chord, I double the piano with the Celeste just to add these little sparklings here and there. I think they really work well together. So if we have a listen to this. And in context. Really subtle, but I think it works well. Yeah, the Celeste, I'm using BBC SO Core Celeste. I used to use Percs Celeste, but it was a little harder for me to place it in the orchestra. I think it sounds really well, but in BBC, I feel like the work is already done of placing the instrument in the orchestra, so that is why I used BBC Celeste. And then the harp, I'm using BBC once again. The role of the harp in the first part is similar to that of the violas and the cellos in the second part. So in the second part, violas and cellos keep the motion, they keep the rhythm. It's the same here for the harp in the first part, but it's a really quieter instrument, and I think it was better to use this in the first part. So let's have a listen to this. Really simple. Maybe this is not really idiomatic for the harp. This is more of a piano writing, but yeah, I think it's effective. I think it works. And at the end, actually here I wanted to do a glissando, but actually it's like a core pluck, so it's not really idiomatic. And if I were to write this once again, like I would really play a glissando, and we would actually see like there are some notes missing, E, G, and C. So that's about it. And for untuned percussion, it's just cymbal rolls. That is, it's from East West, I think. I don't know why I used it, but maybe I didn't have VC at the time I wrote this. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you appreciate it, and I hope that I gave you enough detail. I would really appreciate if you could give some feedback. And yeah, thanks once again, and hopefully see you on next video. Bye-bye.